You know, we haven't done one of these videos for a long time. I used to do these videos a lot when the channel first started. Prepare yourself for a speaker shootout. I will call this one the British invasion. We have three speakers, coming from our friends over in the UK. At least that's where they're based out of. I don't think these speakers are made in the UK, but they're designed, engineered, headquartered. At some point, there's a UK address. Wharfedale Evo 4.1. We have Acoustic Energy AE300 and the Acoustics 5020. They are all 5-inch, 5.25-inch woofer, 1-inch tweeter in a two-way enclosure. And they're all about the same size. And they're all about the same price. The AE300s come in at $1,000. The Acoustics 5020 come in at, I think, $900. And the Wharfedale Evo 4.1s come in around $800, although I think they're on sale right now for $700. So sit down, grab a cup of coffee, and let's award this king of the jungle to the king of the speakers. I am so thrilled that one of my favorite sponsors is bringing you this video, Ridge. And they make more things than just wallets. Like this awesome key case, so your keys aren't stabbing you in the leg when you bend over because your jeans are too tight. Like this awesome pen. Father's Day is coming up, and y'all know that your dad likes to carry a pen. Actually, I like to carry a pen, and I'm a dad too. I doubt though that I'm gonna get a cool present like this for Father's Day. I may get a cheeseburger. My all-time favorite wallet is this carbon fiber one, and I was using the titanium one, but my wife's uncle saw it and was so enthralled by it, I ended up giving it to him because he'd never seen a wallet like that, because he carries a huge wallet. I used to carry a huge wallet, and there's something liberating about it getting a little wallet. I've got 4 cards in mine, but this can accommodate up to 12 cards. That's a lot of cards. I don't know why anybody would have 12 cards that they needed to carry around, but it can do it. These cool wallets also have RFID blocking technology in it. So when there's thieves out there trying to rip off your credit card information or debit card, they can't get it because it blocks it. It's like a little security guard in your pocket, protecting you at all times. So run on over to ridge.com/cheapaudioman and you can bundle a bunch of products together and get up to 40% off your total purchase. And if you don't like it, you can send it back because Ridge stands behind their products. I think they have like over 60,000 5-star reviews. This is also one of my favorites. The carbon fiber pocket knife. So I have gone all carbon fiber. I didn't know what I would think of the carbon fiber, but it's really cool because there's a texture here and it's different than metal. I love the titanium, but I love the carbon fiber. So run on over to ridge.com/cheapaudioman and get 40% off when you bundle a bunch of awesome products together. Get your dad something super cool for Father's Day, something that he'll never remember. Something that he will remember because he uses it every day. Whoops. Ridge.com/cheapaudioman. Thank you, Ridge. It's been a long time since I've needed a table, and my previous table was a little bit rickety, so I figured I'd move it here into the kitchen eating area where we have a very solid table that I can't move. It'll be better for the speakers and my peace of mind. So we have the AE300s from Acoustic Energy in a walnut veneer. We have the Acoustics 5020 in not a walnut veneer. This is white painted. Something on top there. 5-inch woofer, 1-inch tweeter. Actually, they're in metric. I don't know why people use metric. Just seems so silly. I mean, shouldn't we base everything on 12 instead of 10? The imperial system, it's way better. Anyway, these roughly have a 1-inch tweeter and a 5-inch woofer. We've got one more though. The Wharfedale Evo 4.1, as you can tell, this one has a little bit different tweeter. It's an AMT tweeter and a Kevlar woofer. They're all ported. Acoustic is ported on the back. Acoustic Energy is ported on the back. Wharfedale, ported on the bottom. Roughly the same sizes, although the Q's about 2 inches shorter than the Wharfedale, slightly shorter than the Acoustic Energy. Acoustic about as deep as the Wharfedale. Wharfedale's got a weird kind of shape though, and then the Acoustic Energy is not quite as deep. Nothing tells you more about a speaker than its specifications. Let's talk about specifications. Being out here is throwing me off my game. Some would argue I have no game when it comes to making videos, and I can't necessarily disagree with that, especially when I have to move stuff like this around to shoot a video. Nothing tells you more about a speaker than its specifications. You can learn a lot about a speaker. You don't even have to listen to it. Just kidding. Specifications don't even tell you where you're at on the map, but we're gonna talk about them anyway. Acoustics 5020, $899 right now. They could go on sale though sometime. I don't have any insider information, but I know in the past Acoustics have gone on sale occasionally. 5-inch woofer, 1-inch tweeter decoupled from the enclosure, point-to-point bracing on the enclosure. And I can tell you that the Q's, they all seem to brace pretty well. They're rated down to 53 hertz on the bottom, up to 30,000 hertz on the top, or 30 kilohertz. 6 ohm nominal impedance, and have a sensitivity of 87.9. They should have just fudged it and gone all the way to 88. And they're 15.5 pounds a piece. They gave the weight in kilograms, but I asked Siri what it was in pounds, and she told me. Acoustic Energy come in at $999. That's a short $1,000. 5-inch woofer, 130 millimeters, 28 millimeter aluminum dome tweeter, rated all the way down to 45 hertz on the bottom end, and it's a legit rating. Up to 30,000 on the top. These come in at 14 pounds a piece. Pound and a half lighter than the Acoustics. The Wharfedale Evo 4.1, 5-inch Kevlar woofer, AMT tweeter. I didn't do the measurements on the tweeter. Rated down to 58 hertz all the way up to 22K. A little bit short of the other ones. Does that matter? 8 ohm nominal impedance, 87 dB sensitivity, and these are 17 pounds a piece. So the heaviest out of the bunch. Did I mention the Acoustic Energy are 86 dB for their sensitivity? And I could really tell because they required a bit more power to get to the same SPL. That's loudness. For partnering equipment, I use the Emotiva RMC1L, which is a surround sound processor, but is still a really awesome preamp. Reference stereo mode. I also use the Emotiva ERC, basically their CD player. And then I use the Apple TV going into the RMC1L for my music streamer. No subwoofers were used in this review. I had everything in my living room too, which is a huge room, and it tells me a lot about smaller speakers. Let's talk about Soundstage and imaging. Soundstage and imaging. Well, one you can pretty much put anywhere. A second one, you have to make sure that you get the height right. Toe in, not as important. The third speaker is very precise, and you can only have it in one position. Otherwise, you start to lose some of the magic of the speaker. So the Wharfedale Evo 4.1 gets the Stormtrooper Award because they're so precise, just like Stormtroopers in Star Wars. When Obi-Wan Kenobi said, only Stormtroopers are this precise, and then it turns out they're actually horrible shots when you watch every other movie. The Darth Vader Buddha is going to go to the Acoustic Energy. See how he's sitting? You got to make sure that these are sitting at just the right height, because if you get your ear above tweeter level, it falls off a lot. The king of the jungle, when it comes to soundstage and imaging, is Acoustics. You can pretty much put them anywhere, and they sound awesome. They're wide, they're deep, they're precise. Let's talk about bass. Anyway, bass. Listen to Intergalactic by the Beastie Boys. That song is extended, but it's also really punchy, so you can learn a lot about a speaker by listening to that track. This is kind of appropriate. The most precise bass on the table. The Acoustics 5020 gets the Stormtrooper Award. Why? Because they don't have a ton of bass, but what they do have is super precise. Like when a stormtrooper's shooting at somebody in a hallway that's 3 feet wide and they can't seem to get it. Just kidding. The Acoustics bass is actually really good. Really tight, very precise. The Wharfedale Evo 4.1s have more bass than you think they would, even with the most conservative low frequency roll-off. They are quite punchy in the bass. Not quite as extended, not quite as much as Acoustic Energy, which gets the King of the Lion, which gets the King of the Bass award. The Acoustic Energy is shocking how much bass it has. You can check out my full video right here, but this thing is a bass monster. Let's talk about Midrange. Over the Hills and Far Away, again, Led Zeppelin. Listen to the Houses of the Holy CD through the Emotiva CD player, because that record is a little bit thin on the bottom end, so I wanted to make sure that I had a representation of maybe a recording that wasn't super dynamic. I love that record, but it's not, I don't know, it's not super dynamic. I don't know what other way to say it. The Wharfedale seems slightly forward in the upper mid-range, but the lower mid-range actually seemed a touch veiled because they have so much pop on the bottom. I think around probably 200 hertz or so, there's a bit of a hump, maybe 300 hertz. So what that does is give lower mid-range a lot of body, like grunty electric guitars. Lower acoustic guitars are very full. Male vocals are very caramelly and full. However, they're slightly veiled. But when you get to the upper mid-range, these things clean up and are very, very clear. Slightly chesty. Chesty. I don't know what that means. It's just kind of full. Maybe a bit too heavy at the 1 minute 30 second mark. Robert Plant was missing clarity. But when he went up in the vocal register, got super clean. I feel like there's probably a peak around 1500 to 2000 hertz, which could get a bit fatiguing. It's very important to get these towed in just right. Whoops. It's very important to get these towed in just right. Sorry. I was touching the Acoustic Energy, but I was talking about the Wharfedale the whole time. Acoustic Energy. Rich. Weighty. Detail is lost across all frequencies. Pretty much veiled throughout the entire mid-range. But you can't really have it all. And what you get here is a ton of bass, a ton of extension, a speaker that plays way bigger than it actually is. You're going to lose mid-range detail though. Acoustics, mid-range. Clean, balanced, natural, not peaky at all. It wins the King of the Jungle. For the mid-range, the King of the Mid-Range. These awards are kind of meaningless because I'm kind of changing what they mean in every category. So we're going to go with Darth Vader, Buddha Darth Vader, on the Wharfedale Evo 4.1s. It's got a little bit of good, it's got a little bit of bad, but it can still choke you out if it wants to. And then, not precise at all in this case, the mid-range Stormtrooper goes to the Acoustic Energy AE300. Not saying the mid-range is terrible on the AE300. I'm just saying compared to these other two speakers, it's veiled, not a ton of clarity. I think it's more balanced than the Wharfedale, but the Wharfedale wins out. I would choose the Wharfedale over the Acoustic Energy because partly good, partly bad, at least in my opinion. Let's talk about Treble. Treble, War Pigs. The Faith No More cover, which is really good. You should listen to it. Percussion attacks were a win for the Evo 4.1s. Snappier, cleaner. Cymbals were the most natural sounding on the Evo 4.1, and that makes sense because it has the AMT tweeter. This tweeter, even though it's only rated up to 20K, almost always, in my experience, an AMT has slightly better air, slightly better snap on percussion, like the initial attack on percussion. And I wish more people would use AMTs. The problem is AMTs can't be crossed over very low. And that could be why the Wharfedale sounds a little bit veiled on the bottom end of the mid-range, but when the tweeter picks up, all of a sudden all that detail comes back. Acoustics didn't have the snappy realism of the Evos, but it was pleasant and not overblown at all. Had I not compared it directly to the Evo 4.1s, I would say that the treble on this is sublime, perfect even. Doesn't quite have the air that the Wharfedale does though. Acoustic Energy, natural sounding but completely rolled off. So everything treble here is back in the mix. It's not, you're not going to hear the crispy cymbals. You're not going to hear any sibilance, which is a very good thing. Alanis Morissette King of Pain off the MTV Unplugged album is recorded very sibilant. I could not hear it at all on this speaker. Acoustic and Wharfedale, about the same when it came to the sibilance, which tells me the top end on both of these speakers is pretty neutral. I just hear a little bit more air, a little bit more reverb on the Evos. King of the Jungle Treble Award goes to the Wharfedale Evo 4.1s. The Acoustics get Darth Vader. And it's not because they're good and bad. It's just because they're good, but not as good as the King of the Jungle. Are we tracking on all these awards? I know it can get confusing because I confuse myself. And then Stormtrooper Award goes to the Acoustic Energy AE300 when it comes to treble. It's there. It'll get you by, but it's not the most accurate. What are my final thoughts? Final thoughts. Wharfedale Evo 4.1, just like their bigger brother, the 4.2, are extremely dependent on where you have them placed and how you have them towed in. This is a brilliant speaker, but this is kind of like a sports car. You got to get it just right. I do feel like the bass is slightly bloated around 200 to 300 hertz, and I think that veils the lower mids. It also could be, though, that they're crossing the speaker over higher because of the AMT tweeter. Either way, this is a lot punchier than I thought it was going to be. You may want to get them further out from the wall or even put a little EQ on these to bring down that oomph on the bottom end, upper bass. But the Wharfedales are the most efficient out of the bunch, the easiest to drive, so you're going to be able to put them on just about any type of amplifier that probably has 30 to 40 clean watts going into it. It's clean on the top, it's got punch on the bottom, and I think you could probably clean up the mids with a little bit of EQ. It's finished wonderfully. It's the best built speaker on this table. And surprisingly, it's also the cheapest speaker on the table. Binding posts are super solid. Real wood veneer. It's a gorgeous speaker. And Wharfedale continues to just kill it with their speakers. The Acoustic Energy AE300. It may feel like I'm picking on this speaker a little bit, but I'm really not, because this speaker is going to appeal to a big audience that likes big sound out of a small package. The bass is stupid how much there is. It's rear ported. It also has real wood veneer. I don't think this speaker is built as well as either the Qs or the Wharfedale. But this speaker just continued to beg me to turn it up. There was no sibilance. There is no fatigue. This is an easy listening speaker, and just about any recording that you put through this is going to sound good. If you're after the utmost in detail and clarity, though, this is not the speaker for you. Still a great speaker. I think it's a little bit overpriced at $1,000. I think if this thing was $750, I think that's a better price. The Q Acoustics, in my opinion, is the best speaker front to back, best balanced speaker on this table. It's not particularly fussy about where you place it. Off-axis performance is great. Has the cleanest mid-range, has the fastest bass, and has more bass than you think it does. However, that bass is not bloaty or overblown. Top end is clean. There are no bumps or troughs. And I think this speaker is the funnest Q Acoustic speaker that I've heard outside of the 3030. But this is a way better speaker than the 3030. Personally, for me, I like the 5020s way better than the Concept 30s, which is more expensive. Now, granted, it's a lot prettier, but the 5020's funner, more dynamic. It's not finished as well as these two, but I think it's built better than the Acoustic Energy. You can tell this has better bracing, it's heavier, the binding posts on the back are really cool. It's very subtle, it's very clean. Clean, clean, clean speaker. Awards, King of the Jungle, nope. Let's go Darth Vader. Darth Vader's going to the Wharfedale Evo 4.1s. It's got a lot of good, it's got a lot of bad, and it's very, very powerful. The Stormtrooper is going to go to the Acoustic Energy. It can still get you, and it's still awesome, but it's very warm. It's a very warm speaker. King of the Jungle speaker is going to go to the Acoustic Energy 5020. Really surprised at this speaker. I knew it was good when I did the review. When I did the kind of the more intense ABCing to these other speakers, I figured out just how good this speaker is. Don't get me wrong though, when I took down the AE300s, I kind of missed them, and I had the 5020s up there. Acoustic Energy is like eating dessert before dinner and then eating dinner and being like, I kind of want more dessert. It's indulgent. But the Qs, if I had to choose just one speaker out of this bunch,
it would be the 5020s from Q Acoustics. So if you want to support the channel, you can sign up for Patreon, patreon.com/cheapaudioman. Every Sunday night we have Patreon-only Zooms, Patreon-only Discord, Patreon-only Facebook group. You can also use the links in the description. Those are affiliate links, which means if you click and you buy, I get a commission, but it doesn't cost you any more, so it's a great way to support the channel. You can also sign up for Amazon Music, Rune, or Tidal. Links in the description. Click sign up. They have a free trial period. Even if you quit, I get a couple of dollars. Finally, you can use the thanks button down at the bottom of the video. Buy me a cup of coffee, maybe a new award statue, but don't feel compelled to buy me anything. So don't binge watch anything on Netflix or Hulu. Binge listen, maybe through one of these 3 awesome speakers, and fill your soul with happiness. And with that, I'm Randy. I'm the Cheap Audio Man.